Hey guys, welcome back to the Casual NBA Fanatic podcast. Now today, just with All-Star Weekend already kicking off gear, we just wanted to quickly just talk about just the big discussion point that I've seen throughout the week, which has been the biggest point of news for me. And obviously around the mid-season point, we tend to see all the All-Star discussions and a lot of narratives starting to form as well, as we are getting a little bit bored of the regular season as well, especially around this midsection where teams do take it a little bit less seriously at the moment. And just with the replacement discourse around obviously how many injuries that we've seen, and to be honest, the only main take that I think the NBA should be getting out of this is just how long the season is and how detrimental it is for players' health. And in terms of just the entertainment product, like we're seeing so many stars around the league just missing so much time now, and now we're actually seeing like three of the biggest draws in the NBA, Giannis, SGA, and Steph, having to miss what is supposed to be one of the biggest entertainment points of value for the NBA, which is supposed to be the All-Star game. They won't be in the game at all. Pretty disappointing. I mean, I'm an OKC fan as well, so not that SGA is the most hyped up All-Star game product that the NBA can throw out there, but it's going to be sad to see him not out there. And then same with Giannis as well, such an athletic wrecking ball. Steph, we talk about the range as well. Like, I thought Steph's USA Stripes team probably had the best chance to win. And a big part of that is like Steph's ability to get hot in those games as well. We won't be able to see that, which is a bit of a bummer. But I think that's just for the NBA. There's been a lot of notes over the past year alone. Like even Tatum and Halliburton's injuries last year as well. Steph being unable to even give last postseason a shot for the Warriors. I just think the season's length is just a huge thing that I think has to be addressed. 82 games. Like we're even seeing where SGA and Jokic might even be questionable. They can even walk away with the MVP and even an All-NBA honor. Like if that somehow arises where neither of them are even on an All-NBA team, let alone none of them ends up with the MVP at the end of the year, I just think the NBA has to really focus and really just scrap the 82 at the moment. I know, obviously, historically it is nice, but 65 games, 60 games would provide more value to every single game played. You'd be able to get a better TV product around this February point of the season too. I think the NBA has to look into that. And that did play into actually who we got to see get All-Star replacements. Now, the other upside to what we get to see with these injuries is that we always complain year by year how there are such limited slots to the All-Star game. Obviously, 24 players in the NBA nowadays isn't much to be able to decipher who the best players in the league are, especially when you're picking 12 from just the Western Conference. We know the conference disparity in terms of, and discrepancy in terms of talent overall, and it's nice to be able to see some of those West guys get rewarded. But to be honest with me, I don't think the right West guys were rewarded when we come to these All-Star replacements. But we're going to start off with the obvious, which was the first replacement we got, which was the Kawhi Leonard add-in for the ratio to make it 16 US versus at least 8 international players. Obvious slot in. He's been basically one of the top 15 players in the league, like for this regular season. He's stamped himself again as a true superstar in this league, and he is not leaving that spot anytime soon. 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists on 56% effective field goal percentage as well. He's been a plus 11 points per 100 possessions to the Clippers. That's his best individual impact mark since 2021 when we thought the Clippers were going to win the championship. Just, again, living in that short mid-range like usual. He's making 46% of his mid-range looks, 52% in that short mid-range section. Both of them are elite. He looks structurally as composed, athletic, as elevated as possible right now. In terms of generating those muscle memory looks to stabilize the half-court offense for Los Angeles, Kawhi looks unbelievable. And in terms of just the past few months, the brand of basketball Los Angeles has been playing, I mean, the actual major turnaround has been the massive, impressive point for him. The Clippers are now just 2 games below 500. And they have an actual shot to pressure the top 6 if they can maintain this dominant form that they have right now. And a big part of that is their ability to fully rely on Kawhi Leonard as this half-court offensive stabilizer. So again, like no questions asked. He might have been a snub, maybe not. But he got his All-Star selection nod, which was very, very worth it, in my opinion. Now, moving on from Kawhi, though, this is when they might start to get dicey. The second guy that they added in was Sengun, replacing SGA's, who has the abdominal strain for Team World. And for Sengun, I actually had him on my original ballot. And this was kind of before the last few weeks where we've seen a few more grumblings in Houston, and he has been in relatively poor form impact-wise. Now, Houston as well, they look relatively rough compared to our preseason expectations. If a lot of you guys remember what you probably were thinking preseason, I mean, you probably would have had Houston as around at least a top 5 contender in the entire league. I would have had them 4th behind OKC, Denver, and Cleveland. But seemingly they might be around that 6 to 7 range at this point in time. But nevertheless, they're still the 4 seed in the brutal Western Conference. And Sengun's literal advantage creation and just that load that he has taken on in that department, I think gets a little bit undermined. We're talking about still one of the most fluid post creators in the NBA. And we're talking about all the ball handling value that he does bring on the perimeter as a big man who can protect the ball. There's a lot of ball security there when he's actually handling the ball in traffic too. I know the efficiency as well has just been the big knock point on Sengun throughout his entire past 2 years as an all-star reputation name. The thing is, the guy is super young. And he gets the all-star nod because he's averaging 21, 9, and 6 on 52% effective field goal percentage. Maybe the efficiency mark is pretty far from what you want from your post-centric scorer. But in terms of the actual offensive sets that he's initiating game by game, it's been pretty awesome to see still again. And to be honest, like career highs, points and assists as well. The guy is improving. And, all minor improvements in terms of, all the post looks efficiency-wise, like on hooks, short mid-range looks, long mid-range touch looks, all the push shots, they're all minorly increased in efficiency. And we just haven't seen the big jump just yet. But in terms of the expectations put on this guy, I mean, they've been pretty brutal. Like, we've seen the blueprint with Nikola Jokic, and he's still getting compared to offensive fulcrums like what we saw from Domantas Sabonis just a few years ago. This guy is still extremely young, so he's going to take time. Obviously, anywhere within the arc at the moment for Sengun, he's around 40th percentile among all bigs. And obviously, that's just the touch looks. It's just pretty raw at the moment. But in terms of creating those looks for himself, there aren't many more fluid than Sengun with how physical and brutal his style of basketball is. And his blueprint for Houston and their ability to actually win the game on the margins, especially when we're talking about just dominating the glass, you just look at Sengun and what he's been able to do there. And I'm still a big believer in what Houston might be able to rally together towards the end of the season. Again, just physically domineering across all teams that they'll probably come across. And obviously, impact-wise, it hasn't been too stellar with Sengun, and a big point of that is because the defense impact metrics are pretty bad. I think he's a plus 6.6 points, according to Clean the Glass, defensively for Houston's defense. That does drag his overall impact pretty much down, but in terms of just what he's been able to create and the load that he's taken on for Houston, I think it's been a little bit overlooked. Obviously, KD has the glamorous efficiency metrics as well, and he plays the more beautiful, poetic style of basketball. But Sengun has done a lot of hard work for this Houston squad, and they are a top 4 team in the Western Conference. He gets his All-Star nod, which I thought was pretty much deserving, especially when you consider replacements were part of it. Now, the third replacement, now we're getting into more of just the rawer guys that we don't really know. Like, there's been a lot more debate around who could have gotten these last 2 votes, but for Steph Curry's injury for Team Stripes, they included Brandon Ingram. Now, Ingram's just one of those guys that I was heavily debating for my last spot when I was doing my All-Star predictions, and by the time the selections came, I actually had him on my Eastern Conference selections. I know, like, you might have seen NBA on TNT, they would have had Ingram too, alongside Scotty Barnes, and I had him over Pascal Siakam. Now, impact-wise, I don't think Ingram is as strong as Scotty Barnes is when you talk about just the positional value that Scotty Barnes brings on both ends of the floor, and just the uniqueness of his ability to run the 5-point on both ends and what Toronto can do with those units too. But in terms of just what he's been able to do, in terms of just providing his own unique skill set to a situation where there's just a plethora of long-rangey physical wings. None of them, except for Brandon Ingram, are like top-tier pull-up scorers. And that provides value in the half court, especially when you go up against these high-quality defenses. And Ingram's ability to get to just any intermediate range look that he wants and be comfortable with it. Like, you might watch Brandon Ingram create his looks and you might look at the shots that he typically settles for and you're like, oh, that's inefficient basketball. But the guy makes 49% of all of his pull-up twos. And in the league, this guy ranks third, I think only behind SGA and Kevin Durant in just raw pull-up shooting field goal percentage. And so just the reliability possession to possession for Ingram is such a strong point. Passing numbers, maybe not as strong. He's playing with a ton of passing forwards right now, and the Toronto ball movement system is absolutely impeccable with their current unit. And so he's averaging still 22, 6, and 4, one of the strongest passing forwards in the NBA. Still 53% effective field goal percentage. So he is still just a really strong basketball player. And when you're talking about just the Eastern Conference and who you could have actually picked out of, again, with the lower graded talent that we do get from that conference, I think picking Ingram was pretty seamless if you're picking just based off conference, since Giannis didn't get in. But the fact that they put him in over Steph was where I was kind of questioning it. And that's where, when you take him over guys like James Harden and Julius Randle, that's where things are a bit questionable. But the Raptors' team success, that is valuable. And Toronto have been pretty good this year, and in large part to Ingram's ability to bring a diversified skill set, something that they haven't really been able to find. Scotty Barnes, obviously more of just that post-up type of forward, more of that mismatch attacker down on the block, in transition, milking the margin, scoring, cutting, putback value off the glass. RJ Barrett, it's more just like designated just physical rim pressure. But Ingram provides that other value of just being able to shoot over the top at such an obscenely efficient rate. That has been absolutely great for Toronto. And in terms of just mid-range like shot hunting, like according to Cleaning the Glass, this guy's the 99th percentile in mid-range frequency, and he's making 48% of them. That is really, really valuable when you get to these crunch time types of matchups. And his release point is just so staggering. You can't actually defend it properly. And that's why I think Ingram was the right choice for this one. And I actually haven't disagreed with any of them except for the last All-Star selection replacement. And that was released, I think, just a day or 2 days ago. And that was De'Aaron Fox replacing Giannis for Team Stripes. And that pick made Norman Powell move over to Team World, which was also a little bit questionable. But Norman Powell is representing Jamaica. He is California, San Diego born and raised, but they did shift him from one of the USA teams. I thought that was a little bit weird. Like, you already had him set for Team USA either way. Like, that's why you added Kawhi. I mean, it was just a bit weird overall. And I don't really care about, like, picking another US player, whatever. That doesn't matter. But in terms of just who he was picked over, and if we're talking about picking, like, they deviated the Team World selections. I'll take back what I said before. But in terms of Larry Marketing and Dillon Brooks, two international guys that were heavy in debate talks even before replacements were in question, I don't know, I probably would have leaned towards even just at least Dillon Brooks. I think for the NBA product, maybe Adam Silver didn't really want to reward Dillon Brooks, maybe because of the persona that he's given off across the league, given him an all-star respect level. But I think Dillon Brooks definitely has had a more impressive season than De'Aaron Fox by far. Just in terms of what he's been able to achieve, I know you might bring in team success with San Antonio, but Dillon Brooks has played more, he's impacted more from a team culture setting and just on the floor, like two-way, the load that he picks up on both ends of the floor definitely outmatches anything Fox has done this year. Larry Markkinen, you're talking about a guy that's averaging like 27 points and 8 rebounds for one of the best offensive systems in the NBA. And then also just not international players. Like, I would have taken Julius Randle, Steph Castle. Like, we're talking about load. Like, I'm not saying Steph is anywhere near a better player than De'Aaron Fox, but in terms of just the load that Castle has carried for San Antonio, leading their actual advantage creation sets, I don't know. And then also defensively, just picking up more point of attack assignments. Like, I probably would have leaned to Steph Castle even, and then James Harden. I know the efficiency's relatively dropped off, but in terms of just half-court impact that what he's bringing to a team, and so just to go through, just again, Julius Randle. We're talking about a guy that's averaging 22, 7, and 5 on 54% effective field goal percentage. We're talking about a guy that's played every single game for Minnesota. We're talking about a guy who is a plus 12 to Minnesota's offense per 100 possessions. And obviously the efficiency and impact aren't crazy with a guy like Julius, but he's just been a super consistent piece for a top 6 seed in the West. And he's filled major half-court shot creation gaps in Ant's absences, especially early on in the season, which we might be forgetting as well. I don't know if De'Aaron Fox can really say he can overtake a guy like that. De'Aaron Fox, we will give him his respect. 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists on 55% effective field goal percentage. So he does have a notch above the efficiency against all of these other guys that I would rather take over him. He's a guy, Fox, leading more into the 3-point shot frequency and the short twos rather than the long middies as well. And that slightly boosted his efficiency diet a little bit as well. He's just tightened on his selectiveness on those long range twos. He's actually taking 4% less of those as well. He's come down from the 90th percentile of long mid-range shot settling to about the 67th percentile. So that is valuable as well when you're talking about just overall efficiency. But he's also just picked up more of an off-ball load this season, which I actually don't know if you do reward that, considering he hasn't excelled in that role either. You talk about 3-point shooting as well. Like, that's been the actual asset that San Antonio have needed, especially off the ball. And this season, I mean, he's making 35% overall, but it's not that. It's the fact that he's only making 32% of his threes off the catch. And that does not suit the actual role that they've been putting him in to try and fulfill. And obviously, he's more skilled than Steph Castle and Dylan Harper. That's why he's put into that role more so. And that actually makes the actual starting unit flow more offensively. But I just don't know if he's really excelled enough in that designated role. I don't know if even the motor can dull here and there defensively. We're not seeing a guy that picks up major assignments night to night. Like, he's valuable on the weak side and help side and rotation speed, whatnot, but it's nothing otherworldly. Like, you look what a guy like Dillon Brooks has been able to do as a defensive leader. Like, if you go through, like, Dillon Brooks, I mean, he's had himself an incredible season. We're talking about a guy, 21 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. The efficiency isn't great, 51% effective field goal percentage. And he's far from the most talented or the most efficient. But in terms of raw impact on team culture, that has been the impressive part with a guy like Dillon. I mean, the Suns are 32-23 in literal large parts of what Dillon's been able to do consistently every single night, picking up such a large load on both ends of the floor, something that Fox hasn't been able to reach. And Dillon Brooks, we might say the efficiency isn't great because he settles for a lot of pull-ups. Like, that's his main dose of offense. He doesn't literally burst to the rim. There's not much verticality. He has the power, but he doesn't have the verticality to typically finish off his rim pressure sequences when we are talking about just purely a half-court context or even just a fast-paced, brutal transition context. But the guy's a 79th percentile isolation scorer, and he's in the 89th percentile of pick-and-roll ball handling scoring. And that is super valuable. And he's 11th in the league in pull-up field goals made in general. Basically top 10. And he's above guys like Tyrese Maxey. He's made more pull-up field goals than Devin Booker. I know he's played more games, but that's the end of the story is that he has done that. He's made more field goals off pull-ups than Cade Cunningham, then James Harden, then Steph Curry, then De'Aaron Fox. And just in terms of what he's achieved this year and the level of load that he's achieved already through just past the first half of the season, I definitely would have taken him. In terms of guarding isolations, like defensively, this guy just allows 0.71 points per possession. And he's just leading a physical wing unit in Phoenix that has really just won them games and is why they're basically a top 6 seed in the West. And so I just don't know if De'Aaron Fox's season has been around that top 25 quality, just in a clear vacuum. I'm not talking about just, is he the most talented? If he's top 25 most talented, I don't think so either, but obviously injuries played. That's why guys like Embiid are out of this game too. But in terms of just overall raw regular season load and what they've achieved, I would have guys like Dillon Brooks, Julius Randle, and James Harden slightly above, and possibly even Steph Castle, simply because of the load that Castle has carried. I know usage rate isn't too much of a differential between these two, even though Castle is a bit higher. But just night to night, just by the eye test, just what Castle has to exert night to night physically and athletically, it's just a bit more staggering to me in terms of that difference compared to what Fox has been able to do. And that has contributed to San Antonio's success a little bit more than Fox's has to me. Now, in saying that though, Fox still an incredible offensive talent. He has been out of the three. He has been a little bit stitched up. I know he started off coming back from injury too, but he's on a team where he's playing with two pretty not as developed rim pressure point guards at the point of attack with Dylan Harper and Steph Castle. And when you're trying to make the offensive chain together pretty fluidly and you want to keep most of those guys playing 25 to 30 plus minutes a night, Fox does have to take the off-ball load, and that does dig into what he is naturally good at. I understand that, but the other guys and what they've been able to do in their situations, this isn't about who is a better player in a vacuum. This is about who's achieved more this regular season. That's why I take the other guys. Though Fox still deserve the All-Star nod, and to be honest, from the past few years and what we've seen, it doesn't hurt for Fox to add a second All-Star to his resume. Though, personally, as an NBA fan, I would have absolutely loved to have seen Dillon Brooks get a nod on the international team, considering Giannis was the replacement. But other than that, I am mostly excited for the All-Star game. I don't think it will be anything extravagant anymore, especially with all these big names out. Who knows if Steph will be able to be an All-Star starter anytime soon next season when he does turn 39. That is the bummer for me. Get to see LeBron at least one more time. Hopefully he'll be in the league next season. He'll definitely get a nod next season. So I'm excited. I still probably think Team Stripes will win. But then again, the shot making that has been added to the international team with Norman Powell, I just think they have too many bigs. Even a guy like Sengun, that's more wasted shots. I think the skill level that does exist and resides on the USA Stripes team with guys like LeBron, Kawhi, Kevin Durant, Jalen Brunson, I just think that team will win. But we'll see how we go. That was just a quick discussion that I wanted to get off on basically just the All-Star snubs. And obviously we had a ton of replacements that did exist here. It's a pity that Julius Randle, James Harden, and Dillon Brooks all missed out, but we did get to see 4 guys who are deserving candidates get a shoe-in to the All-Star game. I hope you guys enjoyed that discussion. I'll be catching up with you guys probably after the All-Star weekend, and I hope you guys enjoyed the All-Star weekend as an entertainment product itself, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.